And we're back at the Cobb TV studios for our weekly talk with Chairman Mike Boyce. And good morning.
Good morning, Ross. Good to be back.
It's been a very eventful week. We had two public hearings on Tuesday. Right. This Wednesday, we have the final two public hearings, followed by the vote for both the fiscal year 19 budget and the millage rate.
Right.
A lot of discussion last Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think what we saw Tuesday night is exactly, again, I keep going back to what our founding fathers wanted. That room was packed. All right, I think just about every seat was taken. I know there were people in the overflow room, but I think the two things. First of all, if people did not believe that those public hearings made a difference, they wouldn't waste their time by coming. So I think that what that showed is a tip of the hat to the board that we hear you and we want to hear you. We want you to come. We want you to be part of this conversation, and you help shape this. And the millage rate right now is what I've been proposing. As I said last week, and I said it very enthusiastically, I believe in those programs because that's what I've been hearing from the commissioners from the last 6 months, 7 months, although the process has been going on since October. Those programs that are on that chart, again, I want you to show that picture, all those programs, 1.7 mils. Those are not all Mike Boyce programs. Most of those programs that are on there came from proposals from almost all the commissioners. And I heard that, and I also heard from people out in the in the real world, all right, where they all live, and we're seeing right now from our emails and other media that they support this program, but it doesn't come without controversy and opposition. But I also believe that the people elected us to lead and to make the hard calls, and deep down inside, they want us to make these. They want us to do the right thing. They want to be heard, but in the end, they expect us to make those hard calls. And this is one of them, and I expect us to all to step up to the plate and answer that requirement to lead and to make the hard calls, and that's what I expect to see next Wednesday night.
Commissioner Cupid, at the conclusion of the meeting Tuesday, spoke rather eloquently about this budget situation, and I think she kind of echoed some of the things you've said on this program before. Is what kind of county do you want to live in?
Exactly, right. Yeah, look, what future you want? This, you can look at this as just simply money, or you can look at it as an investment in your future, and that's the way I see it. It's a restoration budget, but it's a restoration budget to create those fundamental programs that have always made Cobb great. The libraries didn't come overnight. The parks didn't come overnight. The senior centers did not come overnight. The extension did not come overnight. All these programs that we currently fund and have underfunded for a number of years and have done so on the back of the county employees, plus the ones that I want to restore to, those are the programs that make us unique from all the other counties of comparable size throughout the Atlanta area. Those are the programs why people move here. It isn't just the county, it's a partnership with the county, with the school system, which is a 5-star school system, with the businesses that have Fortune 500 companies here, and more Fortune 500 companies are coming here. So again, we're all working together to create a lifestyle for you that is, I believe, should be the envy of not only the metro area, but maybe Georgia and the United States of America.
One thing that surprises me is that what gets lost in this often is the fact, and I know you've been reluctant to really go back and criticize past decisions, but the millage rate's been reduced since the recession several times. We have a low millage rate compared to our neighboring counties, and again, I think this goes back to the narrative: is where do you want to stand in this metro area? Well,
it also goes to the point of, I'm a very practical person. If you want to have this kind of lifestyle, I believe we have shown that this is what this lifestyle costs. The issue isn't about the cost of the lifestyle. The issue is about how we fund that lifestyle. And there's an argument that we could find other savings in our budget that could support this lifestyle that would not require us to raise the millage rate. I argue differently. And it's an argument not based on opinion, but based on research from the staff and from the commissioner's input over the last 9 months as to how we got here. And what I propose to do here is that, having squeezed this lemon dry of all the juice, I believe sincerely that the way to restore this lifestyle that's going to be an investment for you and your children and your grandchildren is to have a millage rate that we can leave at a set rate that will sustain this lifestyle from now until well into the future.
And I think when you talk about squeezing that lemon dry, we heard a lot of people talk at the public hearings and the town halls too about there needs to be cuts first.
Right.
But again, Commissioner Cupid in her comments went through a scenario that we've already cut fairly deeply in the last 5-6 years.
Exactly right, and I think that's a fact that people in some cases just don't want to address. We have cut government services. We have reduced library hours from well over 1,100 a month to 700 hours. We have cut back on the number of staff we have at your parks. And this is despite a growing population. You can't continue to argue that you can have more people and yet spend less, even with efficiencies, on that. That argument just flies in the face of reality. The question is the additional cost that I'm asking for, or in this millage rate, is it justified? And I believe the answer is absolutely yes, because I have in there, again, using that chart, these are the programs that the county I've seen wants. This is the cost for doing that. In order to achieve those services, this is going to cost. And next Wednesday night, we're going to find out if I have enough commissioners to support me.
As you often mentioned before in these programs, the parks, the libraries, the senior centers, those are kind of the sexy or the issues that really get people's attentions. But one of the big problems we have in county government is, number one, replacing vehicles and fixing buildings, which we're now building up a huge debt on that.
Well, we have the three parts of the pie, the mandated and essential, and that's the core government that we believe that we need to have as a minimum to deliver this lifestyle where you can safely work, live, play, and pursue your dreams. But it is that sexy part of the pie, the desired, where all the voters are. And I get emails all the time, well, let's go ahead and let's cut that. Well, I can assure you that almost every segment on that desired pie has a vested interest of people that will come to these meetings saying, don't cut it, and here's why. I find it interesting that, for instance, the extension people, when they come here to talk about why they're asking us to preserve the resources for their program, they enumerate all the benefits that they do in behalf of the county by what they do. So in other words, even though we give them X amount of dollars to run their program, they bring back, both in food and other programs, they bring back either a matching, or in some cases, they use that to leverage additional funds from other sources to bring more programs to the county. So I think every program that's on there has been time tested. It's not on there because it's an overnight program. It's been there for at least one generation, if not longer. It's a program that people love. I realize not everybody uses them, but this, you can't have a selective use of, like, how am I going to break my tax bill down where I'm only going to have to pay for those services that I'm going to use? There's no way the government can run that way.
And as we've been going through this process, there's been some frustration with narratives that are out there that, this is all caused by the Braves Stadium,
right,
and other things that you see in print or on social media that try to place the blame on the county being in the situation it's in.
That's true, but that just comes with living in a free democracy. That comes with in a country where we practice freedom of speech, we practice freedom of the media, and everybody has a voice. Doesn't mean that the voice is always necessarily accurate. Sometimes they're just opinions not based on fact, but I have to deal with that world. But what I'm trying to do is I have presented in black and white, and sometimes color with my charts. This is the world that I'm trying to bring back to Cobb County. I put those programs with a price tag. Everybody can see what those price tags are. Everybody can see where I want, how I got here, and what I'm trying to do. And I'm just trying to stay focused on that presentation. There are distractions out there. There's another distraction this week about some proposed homeless tent city in Cobb County. I don't know who's feeding the press these stories, but all they're doing is they're diverting people's attention from the real issue. The only issue right now of the county is, what is it that we want to do to continue to have a county with a high quality of life, all right? All this other stuff that you're reading back and forth in the media, I get that part, the media is the media, but let's give some credit to the government here. We have made our proposals, and unless we have talked about some of these things that you're reading in the media, and unless they're on my chart, then they're non-reality. And that's why I want to tell people right now is, unless that chart, and again, I want you to show that chart of what the 1.7 mils brings, unless that program is on that chart, it is not a reality in my world right now. And if there's going to be a reality, it'll be something we deal in the 2020 budget.
And I know the chart's what it is, but you've been still meeting with commissioners constantly.
Absolutely, right.
And have mentioned that this is a fluid situation. I've talked to folks in finance. I know things change and move. So as we go into Wednesday, what would you tell people about whether their voice needs to still be heard, what role they should play in this decision-making process?
Well, like Yogi Berra once said, the game's not over till the game's not over, until the fat lady sings, all right? Well, that's probably politically incorrect to say that today. But the bottom line is here, We need to hear everybody's voice right up to the time we vote on it. This is a partnership between us as your elected officials and the people. The partnership involves a two-way communication. And I don't think anyone's ever going to say this time that everyone didn't have a chance to hear their voice. So I do not say that because we've had 2 public hearings for the millage rate and 2 for the budget, game over. No. I fully expect everyone to remain fully engaged until Wednesday night when we vote on it. And at that time, the beauty this time is we will vote on a proposal that is going to be based on information that all the commissioners have had access to and been made privy to since last fall. This will be an informed vote, and I know every commissioner, whatever the vote will be, it'll be based on what they believe their commitments are and how they believe that their life should lead as their former elected official, and they will vote their conscience, and I'm fine with that.
And even though this has been a budget formed in what may be the longest budget operation in the history of Cobb County, dating back to last
Right.
October, we did have some people in the last public hearing say, we've heard some suggestions, why not wait a little longer and look into these? But we really can't.
No, we can't. We have to have a millage rate approved by the end of the month in order for us to submit it to the Department of Revenue at the state so they can approve the tax digest and then we can start collecting taxes. So we have to have a millage rate vote by the end of the month. And quite honestly, I don't see how anybody could say we need to wait a little bit longer. For heaven's sakes, we've been doing this since October. All right, the local newspapers have been reporting on every meeting we've had. They've been at every meeting we've been to, practically, as far as large bodies of opinion goes, where we have access to the public. There comes a time when you have to step across the line and you have to show people where you stand. And on July 25th, all 5 of us are going to show the people where we stand because we have been doing this now for almost 9 months.
I've been working in the metro Atlanta area for a long time. In my previous job, I've covered countless meetings in all sorts of counties. And when millage rates are changed in other counties, it doesn't seem to be this kind of production. What do you think that says about Cobb County and the people who live here? Well,
I think it just reflects that regardless of where we live, nobody likes to raise taxes. I think if we had a tax millage proposal of this increase in another county, I would hope that people in those counties would have the same degree of vigor of responding to that as we've had in Cobb County. So I think that if I were to sit here and do 2 things, if I were to leave the millage rate alone or to reduce the millage rate, it would be a lonely chamber. But tax raises of any kind bring in the people. And like I've been telling everybody, if I didn't believe what I was doing, I shouldn't be doing it. I'm standing by this millage proposal. It is something that we've been working on a long time as a team in the county. And I will fully expect the commissioners on Friday, next Wednesday, to vote by their conscience. But I'm looking for a favorable vote Wednesday night because I think everybody realizes the stakes that are in the game for this one. This vote tonight speaks to the future of Cobb County. If we do not move forward with a millage rate increase, then we will start a retreat to a position that I don't believe anybody wants to. And don't kid yourself. It won't happen overnight, but it will start to wear on the edges because we've seen that already. We've seen that in potholes in the road. We see that in medians that are not paved. We've seen that in police beats that are uncovered. I could go down a long list of things that most people don't see, but over time, eventually, one of these shortfalls is going to catch up with you, and you're going to call me. And you'll say, how come you don't do something about that? And I have to give you the bad news, because we couldn't get support to fund that program. These programs are vital, either in mandated or essential natures of making sure that we have a county we can safely live, or there are programs that you have come to depend upon to support your lifestyle. So regardless of what the programs are, everybody here has a vested interest in them. And I'm glad to see the people are coming out to make their positions known. But I'm equally committed to moving forward on this county with this millage rate.
And normally we meet on Tuesday nights. This will be a Wednesday night because Tuesday's the runoff election.
Right.
And I remember last time we had the election, there's unnecessary tension in the room.
There is. I fully expect that this meeting next Wednesday night will go a long time. And as I saw in May when they had the primary, there's a commissioner who's running for in the runoff. And it's not fair to them to have to sit there, go through the meeting, while also being distracted by what's going on back there at campaign headquarters. So I wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to do both and make sure they're focused on both of their of activities that night, what's important in their life. On Tuesday night, it's the election, and on Wednesday night, it's the millage rate and the budget. And I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to spend their full attention focused on those two important events.
All right, it is Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. We'll load up on the caffeine. We'll have the Cobb TV networks up and running on Facebook, YouTube, as well as the cable channel. If you get that, it'll all be on there if you can't make it here to 100 Cherokee. But the chairman, I think, is encouraging anybody who wants to come and have their voices heard to do so.
All right, you bet. I'll see you Wednesday night.
All righty.